The major central banks of the world are facing very different inflation challenges, and their interest rate policies reflect the divergences. The U.S. has seen its headline inflation rate peak at 9% and decline to 4%, although its core inflation rate has been stickier and slower to recede. The Federal Reserve was also the first major central bank to raise rates to combat inflation, and it did so aggressively. Short-term rates went from near 0 to 5% in record time. The progress on inflation in the U.S. suggests that the Federal Reserve is at or very close to its peak interest rate. Eurozone inflation peaked later and higher than in the U.S., in part due to the energy and electricity price surge associated with the Russian invasion of Ukraine in early 2022. Core inflation in Europe is also higher than in the U.S. The European Central Bank was behind the Federal Reserve in starting to raise rates, and it faces a much more difficult inflation challenge. Policymakers in Europe have guided that rates need to go higher. After several decades of no inflation and the persistence of a deflationary psychology, the Bank of Japan has welcomed the moderate inflation that has occurred in the last 2 years. Thus, the Bank of Japan has maintained its zero interest rate policy as it assesses the future path of inflation and whether long-term inflation expectations have started to rise. China is in a very different position. Inflation has been declining as the country has been slower to rebound from its zero COVID policy than many had hoped and expected. As a consequence, the People's Bank of China has lowered interest rates. Facing different challenges, central banks are going their own separate ways, which can make for more volatile exchange rates. More recently, the Japanese yen and Chinese yuan have seen some depreciation given their more accommodative policies. The euro has been settling into a trading range against the US dollar, given the mixed picture on inflation and the pace of rate increases.